The best actor Edward Chow married me in a fit of pique after a fight with his first love. Throughout our 3-year marriage, they were entangled. They would embrace and kiss while filming, and exchange flirtatious banter during interviews. Netizens all agreed that I was just a pitiful stand-in. But I never showed any anger, just maintained a smile and helped him deny every rumor. Until one day, I found out I was pregnant unexpectedly and had an abortion without telling him. He was furious and demanded harshly, "Why would you do that?" I just calmly said, "It's because I do not love you. The man I love is your late brother." The entire world knew Edward had married me to spite Jasmine Tang. They broke up after a heated argument just before their wedding, and Jasmine stormed off abroad in a fit of pique. Edward didn't indulge her tantrums. He married me on the spot. I walked down the aisle in a wedding dress never meant for me, and married a man whose love wasn't either. Everyone said that once Jasmine returned, Edward would cast me aside. But by the 3rd year of our marriage, Edward seemed to have begun developing feelings for me. He would make me breakfast, gently wake me with sweet words, and whenever I nuzzled up to him, he'd press his lips to mine. During our sweetest moments, we were entwined feverishly. In the dark of the night, he murmured temptingly, "My love, give me a child, one as sweet and obedient as you." We seemed like an ordinary loving couple. Then came the day I found out I was pregnant. Before I could even tell Edward, Jasmine was already back. And they reconciled. The day Jasmine returned home coincided with their class reunion. Rumor had it her family had gone bankrupt, and she was desperately borrowing money from anyone she could. As Edward led me into the room, we found a wealthy classmate pressuring Jasmine to keep drinking. "Down this shot, and I'll lend you 100 grand," he said. Tears streamed down Jasmine's face as she choked back a sob, but she forced a smile and downed every last drop. When Jasmine noticed Edward had arrived, she was caught off guard. Likely out of embarrassment, she instinctively averted her gaze. Someone taunted, "Jasmine, if you're that desperate for money, why not beg Edward Chow, the movie king? Come on, with your history, hell, even if you just screw around a couple times, he wouldn't dare to shortchange you." Edward cast a cold glance their way and cursed, "Don't fucking disgust me." With a cigarette clenched between his teeth, he leaned against my shoulder and added, "Anyone who dares mess with my wife can shut the fuck up and get out." Everyone laughed, addressing me as Mrs. Chow repeatedly, exclaiming how envious they were of Edward doting on me so dearly. No one realized that Edward wouldn't even be here today if Jasmine hadn't shown up. Jasmine glared at me, her teeth clenched on her quivering lip as she fought back tears. The man who had been pressuring her to drink placed his hand on her shoulder and gave it a suggestive squeeze. "So what are you gonna do now? Looks like Chow's dumped you for good," he asked. "But it's cool. If he dump you, I'll take you off his hands. How about you get naked and service me real good in bed? I'll throw you some cash. What do you say?" Edward stubbed out his cigarette with a grimace, his face darkening into a frosty glare. He couldn't help caring for her. Jasmine, fighting back tears, met his gaze with pleading eyes. She whispered, "I won't. In this lifetime, there's only ever been one person for me. Even if he no longer wants me, I won't allow anyone else to come near me." Edward's grip tightened abruptly, his fingers digging into my skin. The man, humiliated, sneered and cursed Jasmine for being shameless. "Who the fuck do you think you are? Some holier-than-thou virgin? I tried to be decent, but you're begging for a fuck. You'll be screaming under me tonight whether you like it or not." He yanked Jasmine up and pulled her toward the exit. Heavily intoxicated, she limply leaned into his embrace while offering a feeble resistance. Edward's eyes bore into Jasmine intently. I could see he was seething with murderous intent for her sake. As Jasmine was about to be taken away, Edward could no longer keep up the pretense. He strode over and sent the man crashing to the floor with a violent kick. He pinned the guy down and laid into him. "Touch Jasmine one more fucking time, and I'll chop those dirty paws clean off," he snarled, eyes blazing crimson. The room erupted into chaos. Someone was recording the scene. I immediately tugged at Edward's sleeve, desperate to get him to stop. But he asked coldly, "Who are you to tell me what to do?" I froze, my grip loosening involuntarily. Jasmine threw her arms around him, sobbing, "Edward, please don't get into fights over me. I couldn't bear it if you got hurt. I was so scared you'd abandon me for good." Edward didn't resist her embrace. He shielded her close and soothed her gently. Then he carried Jasmine off in front of everyone. And abandoned me there alone. That night, Edward didn't return home. Late at night, Jasmine posted on social media, "You promised you'd never hold someone else's hand again." The accompanying photo showed two hands with fingers tightly interlocked. The man in the photo was Edward, identifiable by the mole on the back of his hand. And I was the other one he'd no longer hold. Within 10 minutes, the post had surged to the top of social media's trending list. My haters flooded Jasmine's comments, "You go, Queen. You and movie king Edward are literally soulmates. Better get back together ASAP. Screw my morals. I'm rooting for movie king Edward to cheat. Can't stand seeing that scheming bitch Melissa get her way." Countless netizens were waiting to see me fall. Some fans left comments for Edward, "Edward, please tell me that's not you. I've been your fan for years and I know how good your wife has been to you. Don't you dare hurt her." Edward and I had numerous joint endorsement deals with astronomical penalty clauses. A scandal was the last thing we needed. My agent couldn't reach Edward, so they called me instead, urging me to quickly come up with a way to mislead the public and claim that Edward and I were together. I scrolled through my album, only to realize just how few photos of Edward and me there were, so few it was almost pitiful. In those precious few photos we had together, only I was smiling. After sifting through them all, I ended up posting an old photo of Edward sitting at the desk under the lamp, engrossed in a book. The hazy glow enveloping him mirrored the figure that haunted my dreams, the one who always made me wake up with tear-stained cheeks. The moment I posted the photo, people flooded the comments section. "Look, our Edward is right here at home with the missus. If anyone dares say he's cheating again, I'll tear their mouths apart." Later, netizens were slamming Jasmine as a shameless clout chaser. But a few minutes later, Edward reposted Jasmine's media post. Under the photo of their clasped hands, he wrote, "That's me." He calmly admitted they were together, tearing apart my self-concocted defense. He left me for Jasmine once again. Jasmine's fans swarmed my social media comments taunting, "Trying to act cool and getting owned? This is so satisfying. Melissa, you lying bitch, fraud. Jasmine gave you 3 whole years and you still couldn't even hold on to Chow's heart? Pathetic. Since when did I ever want Edward's heart? I erased every bit of his existence from my phone. I wanted a divorce." Early the next morning, the company summoned me back to handle Edward's scandal crisis. Unfortunately, the moment I stepped into the office, there she was, Jasmine. Edward probably hated the idea of leaving Jasmine by herself and let her tag along. As soon as she saw me, she began apologizing, "Melissa, about last night, I had too much to drink and ended up blabbering on social media. Edward just had to join in on my antics and ended up causing you so much trouble. I've already scolded him. He only knows how to side with me and never considers your perspective. Such a clueless straight guy, what a total idiot. Those people online are saying the nastiest things, like you're just some stand-in for me. Isn't that ridiculous? They have no idea how much I should thank you for looking after Edward for so many years." She grinned at me with a saccharine smile. I smiled back. "I'm Edward's wife. A wife takes care of her husband. Why would I need gratitude from a stranger? Speaking of which, after being labeled a homewrecker last night, you really shouldn't take those comments to heart." Jasmine's face darkened. She looked me up and down, then suddenly fixed her eyes on the ring on my finger. With a smirk, she purred, "That's my wedding ring you're wearing, Melissa. Give it back." As she spoke, she yanked at my hand. Irritated, I swung my arm instinctively and accidentally struck her across the cheek. Jasmine suddenly flung her bag at me. The metal hardware slashed across my forehead, blood immediately welling from the wound. She struck me with such force that the impact left my ears ringing. I was about to swing at her when a hand yanked my wrist back from behind. Edward suddenly appeared and grabbed my wrist, his voice icy. "Don't you dare lay a finger on her, Melissa." When I turned around, he saw the blood on my face and froze, then turned to Jasmine with a frown. "Was this you?" he demanded. Jasmine shook her head with tearful eyes, whimpering, "Edward, she called me a homewrecker and tried to hit me. My bag only struck her accidentally while I was dodging her. I should apologize." As soon as Jasmine's tears fell, Edward's heart ached for her. At her words, Edward ruffled her hair affectionately and said approvingly, "Good girl. You did the right thing. Whoever dares to lay a hand on you, you hit them right back. With me here, you won't ever have to say sorry to anyone." In that moment, I found myself envious of Jasmine. Honestly, I've always been someone who cries easily, but the one who truly cared about my tears is already gone. Agent Young couldn't bear it any longer. She pointed at me and yelled at Edward, "She's your lawful wife. Are you blind? Still clinging to some scheming little gold digger? In what way is Melissa not better than Jasmine? Did you forget you swore you wanted a child with Melissa? Did you forget telling her that being with her was the only thing that ever felt like home? Look how you're hurting her now. Are you really sure you won't regret this later?" My hand instinctively moved to cradle my belly. Nestled within me was a fragile new life just taking root. Edward smiled faintly, his gaze sweeping over me with detached coolness, and said coldly, "Perhaps I did have feelings for Melissa once, but now that Jasmine is back, I love her more. Perhaps Edward only had a fleeting, shallow thing for me in the past. Now that Jasmine had returned, he was ready to love her again." I yanked off the foreign ring from my finger where it never belonged and handed it to Edward. Edward's smile gradually cooled. After a beat of hesitation, he hesitantly extended his hand to take it back. Yang tugged at my arm, darted a glance at my abdomen, then shot me a pointed look. "Melissa, don't be reckless. You're all ready." Jasmine interrupted, reaching out to snatch the ring from Edward's hand. She tried to slip the ring onto her finger, only to find the band slightly too small. Her smile froze for a split second, then, with a contemptuous flick of her wrist, she flung the ring into the trash. Hanging onto Edward's arm, she cooed, "Let it go, darling. No need to stay upset over this. That ring's tainted now that another woman's worn it anyway, I don't want it anymore." Edward ignored her, his gaze locked on me. "You're already what?" he demanded. I met his gaze coolly, then turned and walked away without another word. "Edward. I'm pregnant, and you don't get to know." Edward is a highly astute man. Given how blatant Ms. Yang's hints were, I guess he has already deduced most of the truth. My long-term medication use has compromised my health and poses risks to the baby's development. This pregnancy was unplanned, and the doctors have recommended termination. I didn't want to keep being tied to Edward because of this child. Before the abortion procedure, I moved out from home to avoid seeing him and prevent any trouble he might cause. But then again, Edward probably didn't care at all. He never sought me out and continued living his life undisturbed. At this moment, Sister Yang sent me a video. The video showed an auction where Edward presented Jasmine with an extravagant diamond ring, and she beamed while throwing herself into his embrace. A handsome, talented man and a stunning beauty, a match made in heaven. Of course, I nearly forgot. Edward had mentioned that Jasmine was back. Whether it was Melissa or her child, we had to take a back seat. That's just perfect. The day before the procedure, I was suddenly overwhelmed by a panic. I remembered the jade Buddha pendant my mother had gotten for me before her passing was still in the home safe, prompting me to return for it. Upon arriving home, I discovered the entry code had been altered. Standing there, locked out of my own home, a sudden wave of helplessness washed over me. Suppressing my anger, I called Edward. But it was Jasmine who answered. She answered with a smug laugh, "Melissa, today's my birthday. Edward is taking me to watch the meteor shower tonight, we won't be back." I told him before that couples who make wishes on shooting stars stay together forever. He actually remembered. Oh my God, I'm so thrilled. But I can't give you the passcode. Since we're not there, it's not appropriate for a stranger to enter the house. I hung up without hesitation, went to the password lock, and typed in today's date. The door swung open. The code was Jasmine's birthday. Inside, every trace of my existence had been completely erased. The wedding photo of Edward and me that once stood on the TV cabinet had been replaced by a picture of him and Jasmine together. Back then, they still appeared youthful and innocent. Edward cradled Jasmine in his arms, his smile radiant with pure joy. The succulents I had lovingly nurtured were carelessly tossed out, plants and pots together. What used to be my study now stood transformed into Jasmine's piano room. After a pause, I dashed into the bedroom and threw open the wardrobe. Rows of lacy lingerie hung inside, none of it was mine. The safe was at the bottom. With trembling hands, I pressed my fingerprint to open it and pulled out all the jewelry, cash, and documents inside. But the jade Buddha pendant my mother had left me was nowhere to be found, no matter how frantically I searched. It was the only thing my mother had left me. Jasmine knew that. So she had gotten rid of it. Jasmine had always hated my mother and me. Back when I was in school, my mother worked as a nanny for Edward's family. Jasmine came to Edward's house with her parents to visit, and the first time we met, the Chows introduced me to them. They praised me as a well-behaved, sensible child who studied diligently and was exceptionally bright. Jasmine put on a friendly act and suggested we become friends. But behind my back, she sneered, "Straight A's mean nothing, she'll break her back getting into some fancy college just to end up serving our kind anyway. Her mom's just as pathetic, grinning like a fool all day. What's there for a lowly maid to be so cheery about? A dried-up hag spawning a runt of a beggar. Disgusting." Whenever my mom picked me up from school and encountered Jasmine, she would laugh and call my mom beggar in Chinese, completely unaware my mother didn't understand. Mom would instead compliment Jasmine's beauty, calling her a lovely girl, even handing over homemade snacks. But Jasmine tossed them into the trash, sneering at my mom, "Smells like shit. Not even a dog would touch this trash." My mother, flustered and at a loss, blushed so deeply she couldn't lift her head, drawing mocking laughter from the crowd around us. I dropped my backpack, lunged at Jasmine and grabbed her hair by the roots. When my mom saw me getting beaten, she lunged forward to shield me with her body, only to have Jasmine's friend knock her to the ground with a brutal kick. A dark pool of blood gushed out from beneath her. That day, my mother was diagnosed with uterine cancer. Those vicious cancer cells had slipped in silently, then stealthily stole my mother's life. That jade pendant was what my mother went to Ling Mountain to pray for before her death, kneeling and bowing with every step. She told me that the Buddha of Ling Mountain was the most responsive. I fought back tears and asked her why. She smiled and said, "It's a secret, I can't tell you." But I knew. When I was a child, I had suffered a severe illness, and my mother went to Ling Mountain to pray to Buddha for protection. She prayed to Buddha, offering half her remaining life so that I could live a healthy and peaceful life. Later, I recovered. The merciful Buddha she prayed to claimed her life in return. When Jasmine found out, she ridiculed my mother, sneering, "Pathetic fools and their backward superstitions. What good is clinging to some worthless trash? Might as well cut out a kidney to earn some cash for her daughter." At 2 a.m, Edward returned with Jasmine. When they entered, Jasmine clung to Edward's neck whining, cooing, "Edward, stay with me tonight, I want to be yours tonight." As she spoke, she pressed her lips against his, but Edward jerked back to avoid her. I sat on the couch watching Jasmine act like a slut right in front of me. Edward's gaze shifted to me. Jasmine froze, then turned to find me. Her lips curled into a mocking grin, laced with false sweetness. "Melissa, if I knew you were here, I would have made Edward come home sooner. We didn't see any shooting stars tonight, and he was so worried I'd be disappointed that he just had to take me to set off fireworks." "Melissa, I'm so sorry. If you're angry, direct it at me, just please don't take it out on Edward." I'd had a bit to drink, and as I rose unsteadily to my feet, I staggered toward her. I cut straight to the point, "Where is my jade pendant?" Jasmine blinked with feigned innocence, her sugary smile intact. Oh, you mean that jade pendant from the safe? Oops, must have knocked it over while cleaning. Looked like junk anyway, so I tossed it. My tears burst out. In an instant, my hands and feet turned icy, my lips trembling violently beyond control. My mind flooded with memories of that afternoon when my mother died, her holding me tightly, wiping my tears again and again. She told me not to be afraid and promised she wasn't going anywhere. She said she'd already spoken to Buddha. The pendant is my promise to stay by your side. I hurled my glass at Jasmine. It shattered against the marble, jagged fragments slicing into her leg. She flinched, shrinking behind Edward with 2 faltering steps. Ow, that hurts, she whimpered pitifully. I clutched her collar, screaming hysterically, where did you throw it? Tell me where. Edward moved to intervene, but I slapped him across the face. We're still married. I snapped, voice trembling. How dare you bring her here? How dare you let her lay a finger on my things? Who the hell do you think you are? Can't you even wait to sleep with her? Edward, you make me disgusting. He pulled me into a firm embrace, stroking my hair as his low voice drowned out my protests. Melissa, you need to calm down. I'll take you to find your jade pendant, alright? Shoo, please don't cry. I can't bear to see you like this, baby. My jade pendant was thrown away by Jasmine this morning, but the trash probably hasn't been cleared out yet. Edward drove me to the landfill at breakneck speed. He helped me sift through the garbage, this man with a neat freak, now indifferent to the grime and stench, even as sludge coated his hands. From the dark of night to the first light of dawn, we kept searching, but found nothing. As the sun crested the horizon, a crushing wave of helplessness washed over me. The golden light on the horizon stung my eyes. I bit my lip, clenched my jaw to hold back the sobs, not daring to let a single tear escape. The elderly couple working at the dump took pity on me and joined in the search. Finally, when I was on the brink of despair, the old lady called out, "Dear, come take a look, could this be it?" I sprang to my feet, the world spinning around me, but I didn't care. I wrenched my shoes free from the garbage and stumbled toward her. The old lady held out a box, inside which lay the shattered fragments of my jade pendant. It was my jade pendant, but there it lay, completely shattered. I should have been happy. Finding it was all that mattered. Finding it was enough. I tried to force a smile, but the moment my lips twitched upward, fat teardrops began rolling down. Mom, you promised you'd stay as long as the pendant existed, didn't you? But now that it's broken, will you stay? Please don't go. Don't leave me behind. Edward pulled me into his arms, and murmured against my hair, "Don't cry. I'll have it repaired." I pushed him away, shaking my head. "I'm okay. There's no need." After a moment, Edward's voice chilled. He snarled through gritted teeth, "Melissa, every goddamn time you say I'm okay, I fucking want to strangle you. Would it kill you to rely on me just once?" I gazed at him wordlessly. Edward's phone suddenly rang. Jasmine was calling. He hesitated for 2 seconds, then reluctantly picked up. Jasmine sobbed over the phone, "Edward, I was coming to find you guys to apologize to Melissa properly, but I'm lost, and there's this man who hasn't stopped following me. I'm so scared, please." Edward didn't have another moment to spare for me. He turned on his heel and strode off without looking back. Right on cue, the hospital's reminder blinked onto my phone screen. Today was the day of my abortion appointment. On the same day as Jasmine's birthday, I lost my mother and the child I never got to meet. Before I was wheeled into the operating room, the anesthesia began to take effect. I sank into a memory-laden dream. At 16, through my own hard work, I earned my way into the nation's top high school. I was admitted to the same prestigious high school as Jasmine, Edward, and the boy who held my heart. From then on, my nightmare unfolded. I could never understand why Jasmine took such cruel delight in tormenting me. She and her friends would smear already chewed gum into my hair and hurl used sanitary pads into my backpack. They would stick out their feet to trip me when I passed by. They dumped buckets of dirty water on me while I was using the toilet. I fought back, and the teachers knew, but they turned a blind eye. Later, when I was curled up from menstrual cramps and had just retrieved painkillers to take, Jasmine snatched them from my trembling hands. She grinned and ordered me to kneel down and beg. I gritted my teeth, enduring the torment as wave after wave of pain assaulted me. I was afraid I couldn't hold on any longer and would end up giving in to Jasmine. The other students were taking bets on how many minutes I could hold out. I stared at the scattered money littering the desk, shameful tears escaping me despite my clenched jaw. Suddenly, someone leaned against my desk, enveloping me in shadow. He scooped up the cash, counting the bills with a roguish grin. "Not bad. Consider this your little donation to me." As I watched him tuck the cash into his pocket, those assholes didn't dare breathe a fucking word. He crooked a finger at Jasmine, the smile still on his lips. "The pills. Now. I'm claiming the sickly duckling as mine. From now on, she's mine. Touch her and I'll fuck you up. Are we clear?" He was Edward's jerk of a brother, constantly stirring up trouble and refusing to straighten up. Back then, I wasn't exactly a fan of his. But today, he came to my rescue. I guess it was because he kept getting into fights and ended up covered in bruises. His family never asked why. They only punished and berated him. Only my mom secretly looked out for him, tending to his wounds. Maybe he was repaying my mother's kindness. From that day on, this little sick duckling gained her very own loyal keeper. When I came to from the anesthesia, Sister Young was holding my hand. She was in tears, and I asked, "What's wrong?" She said I kept talking in my sleep the whole time. She asked me, "Where's the boy you loved?" I shut my eyes. I murmured, "Oh, he drifted away with the wind." I turned off my phone and vanished from the world for 2 weeks. Agent Yang told me Edward had been searching for me like a madman. The first thing I did after leaving the hospital was march straight to him with the divorce papers. Edward fell silent for a moment, then let out a cold laugh. He skimmed the papers and tossed them onto the coffee table, then fixed his eyes on my stomach. "Before the divorce, don't we have unfinished business to settle?" I smiled calmly. "Once, there was. Not anymore. The baby's gone. Don't worry, no loose ends." Edward's pupils flickered and stood motionless for a moment. He bowed his head and let out a bitter chuckle. "Melissa, you vanished for half a month just to pull this shit? Huh? I was afraid of hurting you, scoured the whole damn country for a jade specialist, and this is how you repay me?" He grabbed my arm and yanked me down onto the couch, pinning me beneath him, and snarled, "How could you do this to me? How dare you? How could you do this?" Probably because I was too obedient before. Everyone believed I was utterly in love with Edward, even the man himself. I gazed up into his face and traced the lines of his brow. I said calmly, "Edward, it was never you. The way you lose your temper, it's pathetic. You're nothing like him anymore." Seeking out a substitute like this did offer me some comfort in the beginning. But over time, I realized that whether he smiled or not, he could never be him. Even his embrace couldn't match the warmth of the one I truly loved. I was done. Edward realized who the one I truly loved was. His tears spilled over, splashing against my cheek. "The longer you live, the more bizarre things you get to witness." Even on the day Jasmine left, Edward, who always held himself above everyone else, hadn't shed a single tear. Yet now, he was crying, for me. I told him, "Don't feel wronged. From the very beginning, our relationship was nothing but a transaction, don't you think? You used me as a rebound to get back at her, and I used you as a stand-in to pass the time. We're even." Before I could finish speaking, Edward cut in sharply. His eyes suddenly welled up, and in that instant, his expression resembled a lost puppy. He said, "Melissa, you don't get to say we're even, damn it. Did you know? When I gave Jasmine that ring, I felt absolutely nothing. I tried to love her the way I used to, but you flooded every thought. When you vanished, I kept waking up panicked in the dead of night, heart racing. Melissa, you made me love you, then dare to say we're even? Fuck you're even. He grabbed my face with wolf-like ferocity, snarled, divorce? Dream on. Jasmine, who had been eavesdropping from the room, pushed open the door and stumbled into view, disheveled and broken, in the center of the living room. Her voice trembling with tears, she managed to whisper, "Edward, what are you talking about?" As Edward started to rise, I seized his tie and yanked him toward me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Jasmine's hands ball into fists, and I smiled. I asked Edward back in school, we weren't even in the same class, but you knew how Jasmine bullied me, didn't you? You can beg me not to divorce you, but the first condition is that you get back every penny you used to pay off her debts. Get her out of here right now. Jasmine pleaded tearfully, Edward, we all did stupid things when we were young, didn't we? And you know I never meant any harm, those were just harmless jokes with you. If she's mad, I'll apologize, alright? As she spoke, she dropped to her knees, pleading desperately, Melissa, he's all I have left. Please, don't take him from me. I'm begging you. Edward, you've seen what those loan sharks are capable of. If you abandon me now, if you demand the money back, I might end up. Edward frowned, his gaze locked on mine. After a prolonged pause, he uttered, I'm sorry. He always does this, claims to love me, but whenever a choice must be made, he inevitably sides with Jasmine. Such a hypocrite. I laughed and slapped him across the face. What the hell was that fake affection act? I snarled. Save your apologies. I was only screwing with you from the start. Edward, who the fuck do you love? What's that to me? Hearing this, Edward gradually hardened and shoved me away. He approached Jasmine and slowly gathered her into his embrace, murmuring soothingly, it's all right now. My fault entirely, these careless words of mine. I could let go of anyone else, but I'll never abandon you. I promise. Jasmine beat his shoulders, sobbing tearfully, yet clung tightly to his neck, refusing to let go. Seeing her frightened look, I was inwardly thrilled. On the day Edward and I finalized our divorce, Jasmine was right there by his side. She clutched Edward's hand tightly, fearing I'd sweet-talk him into being snatched away. The moment the divorce papers were finalized, she let out a breath she'd been holding. While Edward was away getting the car, she seized the chance to taunt me once more. While we were fighting, you got to be Mrs. Chow for 3 years, consider that my gift to you. Melissa, mark my words, you'll always be nothing but a beggar spawned by that old trash. Watch your back from now on. I'll make sure you regret crossing me. I snatched her hair, clenching it tight as she yelped in pain. Leaning into her ear, I smiled and whispered, Jasmine, I've got proof that you committed murder. She froze, her face paling with terror. I gazed at her smugly and went on, but rest assured, I'm not quite as vicious as you are. I don't want you dead, I want you to beg for death. After we publicly announced our divorce, Edward became permanently branded as a marital cheater. But he didn't care. As an A-list actor and a movie king, such scandals barely left a scratch on his image. Some will always forgive him. He began taking Jasmine to various public events, issuing press releases to rehabilitate her image and paving the way for her acting career. With his wealth and power, such trivial matters were swiftly handled. By the time we met again, Jasmine had already wrapped up filming a major blockbuster and was staging a high-profile comeback. Tonight was the birthday banquet of a respected senior. Having been invited, I couldn't possibly decline. The moment I reached the banquet hall entrance, I saw Jasmine clinging to Edward's arm as they greeted me. Melissa, it's been a while. I heard you've been working on some niche film lately. Running into some problems? How come your projects took such a nosedive? Around Edward, Jasmine would always put on a demure act. She seemed to have forgotten when I warned her I'd make her beg to death. Perhaps after all this time without any consequences, she assumed I was merely bluffing. Ms. Yang shot her a disdainful look and retorted, Ms. Tang, if you don't know something, don't spout nonsense. Just because it's a niche genre doesn't mean it's a career decline. That director's an international award winner, you'll just make yourself look bad with comments like that. Jasmine's expression flickered, then settled into a practiced smile. Leaning gently against Edward's arm, she cooed in a sugary tone, "Who cares if I offend people? I've got my hubby to back me up anyway. That's just how we are, I make a mess, and he cleans it up. With my love by my side, nothing scares me." I couldn't be bothered to engage. After contributing the gift, I prepared to leave. But Jasmine suddenly called out to me and produced an invitation from her purse. "Melissa, I forgot to mention, Edward and I are getting married in October. Hope you can make it." Edward frowned and shot her a brief glance. No one anticipated that I would pause, stare at the invitation, then smile and accept it. I exchanged a few words with Jasmine. "You two really managed to keep things under wraps. I didn't hear a thing about it. Not like when I married him. Your dear husband had to live stream every second, desperate for the whole world to know we were tying the knot. It might have seemed like a grand spectacle, but honestly, it was pretty annoying." Noticing Jasmine's expression shift, I immediately turned to leave and tossed the invitation into the trash. "Mr. Edward, Miss Jasmine. May your wedding be truly unforgettable." I heard that Jasmine fought with Edward for a long time about their wedding plans. Jasmine had finally pushed to convert their private ceremony into a fully live-streamed event. How utterly stupid of her. What's the point of a public spectacle of a wedding? What Edward truly intended was to protect her, she just couldn't see it. I was counting down the days until the day they would say I do. I want them to stand publicly before the world as husband and wife, bound together in life and death, sinking together. After the class reunion, an anonymous video recording found its way to me. An anonymous classmate told me, "Bruno's death wasn't suicide. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was scared Jasmine would come after me." Ah, Bruno. It's been ages since anyone's spoken his name. That night, I watched the footage repeatedly, finally understanding why he died on the day he fell from the rooftop, the very day I'd planned to confess my feelings to him. So, in the end, it was all because of me. On Edward and Jasmine's wedding day, I was glued to the live stream, afraid of missing any of their moments of joy. Jasmine, wearing a high-end custom wedding dress, glided gracefully down the aisle strewn with white roses. Edward stood waiting for her at the end of the aisle, his gaze tender. Under the pastor's witness, they confessed their love, promising to remain faithful to one another through sickness and health, never to part. The chaos erupted precisely at this moment. A video suddenly flooded the internet, filmed on the school rooftop. The video showed two figures, one clearly showing a younger Jasmine's face, the other a boy strikingly resembling Edward. It was snowing that day, Jasmine teetering on the precarious edge of the rooftop. "Would you rather watch me die than just be with me?" she sobbed through tears. The boy grew impatient. "How many times do I have to say it? There's someone else I like." "Are you fucking deaf?" Jasmine refused to back down, pressing hysterically, "Who is it? Who the hell is it? Who at this goddamn school could possibly be prettier than me? Don't tell me it's that country bumpkin Melissa? What makes her so special? I've loved you for 2 years, I'd literally die for you. Does she even have the guts?" The boy sneered coldly, unable to bear hearing the girl he loved being insulted. "Jasmine, don't kid yourself, I know exactly what you really are. Your petty tricks might work on Edward, but you're not on my level when it comes to playing games. Let me make this clear, hand over Melissa's photos right now. If you dare fuck with her again, I'll fucking kill you, you hear me?" Jasmine stared at him, her silence thick with defiance. After a long pause, she suddenly stepped onto the rooftop edge with a laugh, shrugging carelessly. "You're seriously blind. Honestly, do you have any idea how many guys are crazy about me? You're just the black sheep of the Chow family. Who do you think you're acting all high and mighty with? I'm giving you a chance and you're shoving it aside. Want Melissa's nudes? Come and take them yourself, if you dare. If you can't get it, then don't blame me for releasing them everywhere. Let every man see what that little hick is really made of." With a sneer, she produced a memory card from her pocket and raised it defiantly in the air. Just as the boy lunged at her, she ducked down. The rooftop was icy that day, the wind howling fiercely. Then the boy turned into a butterfly, lingered for a fleeting moment, caught the wind, and soared into the sky. I still remember how dark the sky was that day when he ran his hand through my hair, asking me to wait for him after school so we could walk home together. My fingers brushed against the confession letter tucked inside my desk, my face flushing as I nodded. From that day on, he never came back. That love letter has remained a cherished secret in my backpack. During the live stream, someone halted the ceremony and shoved a phone in Edward's face. Jasmine's face twisted as she seized Edward's collar, screaming hysterically, "Don't look, Edward, don't look. It's not true. I didn't do it on purpose. I swear, it's not my fault he died." I had no idea the rooftop would be so slippery, and how was I supposed to know he was so weak he couldn't even keep his footing? Edward shoved her to the ground, sending her diamond-encrusted hairpiece clattering to the floor. And her makeup smeared all over her face. A swarm of reporters descended upon her, cameras flashing furiously in her disheveled state. Her long-awaited wedding of the century had now descended into a grand funeral. What a humiliating scene, and how utterly delighted I was. Jasmine, when I vowed to make your beg to death, I meant every word. The scandal ignited massive public discourse. People began emerging online one after another, cataloging every misdeed Jasmine had committed from childhood onward. Some were factual, others were fabricated. Netizens started discussing and analyzing how social status, family background, and upbringing environments influence the development of children's personalities. Some claimed that some children are simply born evil. I couldn't agree more. Jasmine's actions had severely impacted society. On the day of her arrest, her face was gaunt, desperately trying to shield herself from the cameras. Under the relentless assault of countless camera flashes, she collapsed into sobs, screaming, "Stop filming me. Don't cyberbully me. I was wrong, I admit it. Please, I beg you, stop this. Just leave me alone." She finally experienced the taste of fear. She received a lengthy prison sentence. And I heard that one of the people she had bullied ended up being her fellow inmate. I'm sure she'll give her the special attention she deserves. Edward was also dragged down by Jasmine's scandal, facing an industry-wide blacklist and expulsion from the Chow family. He had ruled the industry with an iron fist for years, accumulating no shortage of foes who soon found their chance to pounce. First, they exposed his major tax evasion and draining his pockets. Then they had people follow him around and constantly harass him. Someone filmed him being robbed by a gang on a street. He was stabbed during the struggle and left fighting for his life. There was another absurdly amusing incident. His parents, who had never cared about Bruno and remained indifferent even after his death, suddenly made a public appearance, putting on a show about how Bruno had been a devoted son. Yes, he had a temper, but his character was beyond reproach. Their tears seemed genuine. But they didn't even know Bruno's favorite flower. They piled his grave with chrysanthemums. I made multiple trips just to finally toss them all away. Bruno detested chrysanthemums. He was so fussy, always complaining about how they stunk. I cleaned and tidied his little home, then nestled beside him to bask in the sun together. I wish I could talk to him. But what would I even say? Let me think. Let me tell you something you never heard, that I loved you.